Last night, something grabbed my leg from inside a grave. I'm not kidding. And the worst part? I've been paid to sit there for 30 years. Let me back up. My name is Calloway. I'm 62 years old, and for the last 30 years, my job, my actual paying job, has been to sit in a cemetery from sundown to sunup 4 nights a week and guard a single gravestone. I don't know who's buried there, I don't know who pays me, and until last night, I didn't know why any of it mattered. Now I do. And I wish I didn't. 30 years ago, I was 32, and my life was coming apart at the seams. The woman I thought I'd marry had just left. My journalism career, the thing I'd spent a decade building, was going nowhere fast. I was broke, angry, and spending too many nights alone with a bottle. One of those nights, I got drunk enough to black out at my desk. When I came to the next morning, there was an envelope in my lap. White, crisp, sealed with wax. I want you to understand something. I lived alone. I had locked the door before I started drinking. There was no way that envelope was there when I sat down. No way. I opened it anyway. Dear Mr. Calloway, we have been observing you for some time. I stopped reading. Observing me? I looked around my apartment, at the windows, at the corners of the ceiling, at the spaces between things. Nothing. I kept reading. The job was simple. Guard one grave at Blackstone Cemetery, 4 nights a week, sundown to sunup. Call the provided number immediately if anything unusual occurs. Then I saw the salary. I stopped asking questions. I called the number. They picked up on the first ring. No greeting, no voice, just static. And breathing, slow, patient. Like whatever was on the other end had been waiting a very long time. I said 2 words. I accept. They hung up. The second letter came the next day. A map of Blackstone Cemetery. 1 grave marked with a red X. I showed up that first night with a flashlight, a jacket, and a paperback. I found the grave without much trouble. I sat down in front of it, opened my book, and waited. Nothing happened. I went home at sunrise feeling like an idiot. And then I walked into my kitchen. There was money on the counter. Cash. Exactly the amount they'd promised for 1 shift. Sitting there like it had always been there. Someone had been inside my home. Again. I should have called the police. I should have walked away. I should have done a lot of things. Instead, I went back the next night. And the night after that. And the one after that. For 30 years. Here's the thing about doing something strange for long enough. It stops being strange. The cemetery became routine. The grave became familiar. I bring different books, different coffee, sometimes a folding chair when my back got bad. The nights were quiet. Cold in winter, heavy in summer, but always quiet. I started to think the job was pointless, that nothing was ever going to happen out there. I was wrong. I spent a lot of those 30 years studying that headstone. When you sit in front of something for thousands of hours, you notice things. Every crack, every shadow, every way the moonlight hits the stone differently in different seasons. The inscription had eroded badly. Whatever name was carved there, it was almost completely gone. After years of looking, the only letters I could make out were a B and an R. The death year was still legible. 1872. No birth year, no epitaph, no family name. Just those 2 letters, that date, and a stone that someone had decided needed guarding 150 years later. I used to wonder about that. Who they were, what they'd done, why it mattered. I think I understand now. I think I was never guarding the grave from people. I was guarding it from whatever was inside. Last night started the same as every other night. I arrived just before sunset, settled into my chair, poured coffee from my thermos, opened my book. By 2 in the morning, I was deep into it, comfortable. The kind of comfortable that makes you careless. That's when I felt it. A vibration. Not from above, not from the air, from below. I lowered my book, looked at the ground. The dirt in front of the headstone was moving. Not shaking, moving. Like something beneath it was slowly, deliberately pressing upward, like the earth itself was breathing out. I stood up. I told myself it was an animal, a mole, a shift in the soil. I told myself a lot of things in those next few seconds. The ground split. A sound came with it, not loud but wrong, a low crack that I felt in my back teeth more than heard with my ears. And then a hand came through. I need you to understand what I mean when I say it was a hand. It had fingers. It had a palm. But it had been in the ground since
wrapped in
1872.
something dark and dried and ancient. And it moved with a certainty that made my blood go cold. It didn't search, it didn't grope, it reached directly, immediately, for my ankle. And it grabbed me. The grip was extraordinary, not the weak fumbling of something half dead, something with strength that had been saved up for a very long time. It pulled downward, and I went down with it, hitting the dirt hard, screaming in a way I haven't screamed since I was a child. I kicked over and over with everything I had. It let go. I scrambled back and looked at my leg. My ankle was bleeding through my pants. Then I remembered the rule. Call immediately if anything unusual occurs. 30 years, one rule. I called. They picked up before the first ring finished. I couldn't find words at first. I just breathed, and then I said, "It's awake. Whatever's in that grave, it's awake." For the first time in 30 years, I heard a voice on the other end of the line. It was deep, deeper than any voice I've heard from a human being. The kind of depth that makes you feel like the sound is coming from inside your own chest. It said one word: run. I ran. My ankle was bad, and I'm 62 years old, so it wasn't pretty. But I made it to my car. I drove home without stopping, without looking in the rearview mirror, without thinking. When I got inside, there was an envelope on my kitchen table. I knew before I opened it. Dear Mr. Calloway, we regret to inform you that we no longer require your services. That was it. No explanation, no apology, no answer to any of the questions I've carried for 30 years. Just a termination letter, on my kitchen table, in my locked house. I've been sitting here since 4 a.m. trying to make sense of it. I can't. What I keep coming back to is this. They hired me to guard that grave. Someone decided that whatever is buried at Blackstone Cemetery needed to be watched, needed someone there. Every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, without fail. And last night, for the first time, I wasn't enough. I don't know what came out of that ground. I don't know where it went. I don't know what it wants. And nobody is going to tell me. That's all I have.